We're going up, up, up to the upper Marae, where stories lift and voices fly. Put your tea towels down, let your worries fade. Open the gates, let the memories cascade. In this podcast world, we give it our best. So grab your cup or come say hi, no jest. We're going up to the upper Marae, where conversations flow and spirits can't lie.
Kia ora and welcome to the Upper Marae. I'm your host, Dr. Alexander Stevens II, and in this Kōrero, we're talking about unmasking the stigma around mental health, having honest conversations, sharing real experiences, and reminding people that they're not alone. Welcome, Khan Buchwald.
Thank you, Alex.
Ka aroha for absolutely butchering your surname, brother.
That's okay.
I was just saying, I learned how to speak German in college, and I actually
It's
passed
more than
it.
me.
Oh, really? Really?
Yes.
But we couldn't study Māori, which was interesting. So we
Ah.
either had German or French, which
Some
I just
things
think
do
is...
change.
Yeah. By way of introduction, tell me about yourself.
Oh yeah, kia ora koutou. My name's Khan Buchwald, and I whakapapa back to the Hokianga in the far north, in a little place. I grew up in a little place called Omanaya, but my grandmother comes from a town not too far from Omanaya called Te Karai, and then I had my adolescence in Hokianga, and then I moved down to Waikato University to study engineering, and that's when things began.
What led you to go from one extreme to the other, i.e. from Northland down to Waikato?
Oh, it was a major shock.
Yes, I bet it was.
I had nothing organised. I didn't have somewhere to stay. It was very loosely organised. When I got there, I had nowhere to stay, so I just jumped on a bus and tried to get a taxi and tried to get as close to the destination as possible.
Yes.
I went into a backpackers and just stayed there the night until I could move into the hostel.
Wow. I mean, that's not far from where I live, which is in Mangamoka, so you're only like an hour out from where I hail from, so it's actually not that far.
Yep.
And so, you decided one day that you'd wake up and get on the bus? Talk to me about this.
Strongly supported by my father, and my mother has schizophrenia, and she provided support to me, of course, as well. But I always liked education. Even when I was at school, a lot of people, it was a very low decile school, so there's a lot of people that didn't go to class, they'd play sports or leave, and there was very few people, and I was the only one that completed all level 3 subjects in my year.
Wow. In Northland.
Yeah, it was a particular bad patch for that school. It wasn't always that bad.
Are they still open?
Yeah, they've restructured quite a few things now. Right. I think they're getting more funding now that they moved away from the decile system. But yeah, I always wanted to do education, so I was studying, even sometimes through lunchtime, and even I would just sit down and try and get work done.
Wow.
Plus, there was not much to do.
yes, I bet. I've been there. Yes.
And then so I went to university. At that time, I sort of wanted to do it. I wanted to do it for my father rather than for my own outcomes. But then that slowly changed as I got older, and I had some more motivation.
Right. So, if we take a step back, what experiences from your early life shaped who you are today?
Yep. Well, see, my father he's from Germany. So there.
Do we know what part?
Yep. Obersulm, which is not far, an hour from Frankfurt, about an hour from Stuttgart too, on the Autobahn.
Good.
Yeah. Early experiences. Yeah. So my mum struggled with schizophrenia, and that reduced her ability to obtain employment, and so she received obviously the invalid's benefit, it was called then. Right. And I went to a school, Kiri, which was sort of posh school. And so I went there sort of, and she was trying to look after me, and I'm still doing well today, so she done a good job. Yes. But still I'd go there with no shoes or something. So I'd get a lot of bullying at school for being low income.
Right.
Until I found some friends. So my mum was dating my stepdad, Philip Craven, who he his brother was going to school in the same year as me,
Right.
and so that was the first time I really had experience with Māori. Before that, it didn't really exist.
Right.
And so from then, I was hanging out with my friend Ray Craven and a couple of others from school, and then things started changing in my life.
Yes.
Yeah, and then my dad. I spent a bit of time in the Hokianga in my early days, and I went to Rawene Primary School. I was bullied there too, probably because I wasn't Māori, but that's okay. Yeah, and so that was my early experiences. A lot of bullying. Yeah, and then I went into high school,
Right.
and then adolescence came along.
So, can you remember a moment when your perspective on life kind of changed?
Yeah, there's been quite a few instances of that throughout
Does
my
it
life.
start from high school? Did it get
Yeah, that
better
was a
from high
change.
school?
I didn't want to leave
Right.
Kitty because I was going into this big unknown,
Right.
and I was a bit scared of the unknown at that stage. But then when I went there, I realised the differences in a sort of a Pākehā school compared to a kaupapa Māori approach school. It was still an area school. It wasn't a kaupapa Māori school, but still it was still embedded within Māori beliefs and ideologies.
Right.
And so I remember my transition and how my perspective changed. And it was in a critical period during my adolescence, so that helped shape my identity as well. So my identity formed based on my experiences in the Hokianga.
Right. Yes. And then what did you learn from it? When comparing kind of kaupapa Māori to kaupapa Pākehā, what was the learning that you took from that?
Yep. It was foreign to me at the time, and then when I moved into the Hokianga, that's when I started adopting those ideologies. And I remember the first time where I started to pronounce te reo properly.
Yes.
Because I kept getting corrected. And from then I remember now from ever since then I've been able to kōrero Māori.
So then, given that, who's influenced you the most kind of growing up, and how have they kind of shaped your path that that you're on?
My dad, my dad definitely. He was the biggest support of my life. He supported me in nearly every aspect of my life, actually. Pretty much everything except sports. He didn't do sports.
But you do?
Just recreational.
Right,
yeah,
right. I'm with you. Yeah.
But every other aspect of my life, whether it be education, health, income, we often have conversations just about the world, and even he's a very principled man. He's a few things. He's kind of a pacifist. He left Germany when he had to go, and he was told that he had to go to the army because it was compulsory at that time. So he fled Germany and left, and had to. And so he came to New Zealand seeking migration. The furthest possible away from Germany probably as possible. And he couldn't go back. And so I think that shaped my upbringing as well. So he's also a nihilist. So he also thinks that nothing. There might be meaningful things in life, but at the end of the day, we're sort of like we live a short amount of time in this huge universe, and what does it matter? And so that has an impact. And I remember we did have some differences, because then I started adopting the views and values of the Hokianga, and he would have more Western values, like independence and so forth, which isn't really a priority. And so we had a lot of debates about that. Yeah.
Interesting. Were you the kind of person up in the Hokianga that'd go fishing?
Oh, yep.
Trekking?
Yep.
All that
Fishing,
stuff?
Yep.
Right. Making sure you pronounce my name correctly.
Diving, yeah.
You actually like diving?
Yeah, love diving, yeah, but just snorkeling, yeah.
Yeah.
Snorkeling.
So then when did you start becoming aware of your own kind of mental health?
Oh, I remember the exact moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Walk me through it.
There was the area of my life where I went through the prodrome. So that's before I got unwell. I went through a stage where I started acting differently.
Right.
My memories, my cognitive abilities started getting impaired. I wasn't socially accepted. And that came because...
How old were you at the time?
At 17, 18.
17, okay.
Yeah, during the prodrome. And I remember the very moment when I first had a hallucination. I was 18, and I think it was in about November 2009 or October, one of the two.
Right.
And I had an auditory hallucination. I could hear I was staying in Opanoni in boarding, and I remember the landlord, and I heard her voice in my head, and immediately I thought it was some sort of witchcraft or something.
Wow.
So there's delusions slightly creeping in there as well. And so I heard that hallucination, and I didn't know what it was. But then I was also smoking a lot of marijuana
Right.
in my adolescence, and so so I heard the voice. I was getting more distant from my peers, even though I was focusing on education. I found that even school subjects became extremely difficult. Like, you know how you learn and then you get exams at the end of the year? Well, I got to the end of the year, I had to relearn everything quickly because I had forgotten most of it. So the cognitive impairment started becoming noticeable.
What kind of helped you get through that period?
Just family support, but it was very minimal because no one knew about it, no one knew anything.
Right.
My dad said he had suspected I was getting unwell, and so he asked a neighbour to drive me to Kaikohe and see if he could notice anything different about me and the neighbour, because the neighbour had a son who had schizophrenia as well, and the neighbour said, "No, I don't notice anything, he's just a normal teenage kid." But so there was some suspicions from my dad, but then I went down, after the summer holidays, I went to Waikato University to study engineering. And it was a disaster. Apart from arriving, not having any accommodation, I didn't read my books. And so I got to the fourth week. I finally got my books in the fourth week. And I was like 200 pages behind on every class. And I had 4 classes. And I was like, oh, no. And I walked to university, I took the bus, but then I started skipping classes. And then at that time I had mild symptoms. Right. But not full-blown.
I see. And you were how old? 18, 19?
18. Yeah, 18, 2010. Yeah. And I was... And then the moment came when I had some marijuana. I had sort of slowed right down. Right. And I had some marijuana, and that's when I first had the full experience of schizophrenia.
So was it initially drug-induced psychosis, or was it schizophrenia that you were diagnosed with? When did that period happen?
So once I had once I had marijuana, I had experiences. I thought I was watching a rugby game, and I thought the rugby game was... The commentary was about me, and I started thinking I can hear other people's thoughts, and people can put thoughts in my head. I can take thoughts out. And it's like thought broadcasting. Had auditory hallucinations. I had no visual hallucinations at that time. Right. And then and then everything started falling apart. And then I had a break at the 6-week break at Waikato, so I went up north. And I kept telling my dad that something's not right. So he took me to the GP, and the GP referred me to mental health services in Kaikohe. Went to Kaikohe, we had an appointment with the psychiatrist. They weren't sure. They said it sounds like schizophrenia, but can't confirm at this stage. And they gave me some, what did they give me? Risperidone to take back, and referred me to the mental health services in Hamilton. But I wasn't taking the medication regularly. And mental health services, I sort of wasn't organised enough to keep track with them.
Totally. Yeah. And there's a huge distance between Kaikohe and Hamilton.
It's a major change, yeah.
Yeah.
It was an absolutely major change, yeah.
And so what was that period of your life like for you to kind of transition from all these different spaces?
Well,
to Hamilton?
Once I went back, my symptoms are still full-blown experience. So everything, everywhere, pretty much constantly, I'd be delusional, be hallucinating, have negative symptoms. People at the hostel started noticing my behaviour changed and so forth. And then I left. And my dad was really upset. I went up to my mum's place in, where was she staying? State Highway 1 in Kirikiri. Right. I went there. My dad was really upset with me. He didn't really want to talk because I had left university. He thought I just wanted an easy way out.
I see.
I think he was kind of in denial at that stage, but he's in denial that he's in denial that he was in denial. Yeah, at that stage I had just left, and he thought that I'm never going to return back to university, so he was really upset because a couple of kids at Hokianga said they left university and never went back, so he thought I was doing the same.
I see.
Yeah.
When did things start to kind of progress in a way that started to work for you rather than against you?
At the hospital, yeah. So I was prescribed amisulpride, and then I went after hospital for 5 days. I went to a subacute.
Right.
So this is when the system started coming in, and it made a huge difference. So I went to the subacute, and I started taking my medication every day, not like before. And my symptoms started disappearing. Right. And then that was from then on, it was a journey to recovery. So I went to the subacute, met some good friends there, and then this was in Kaikohe here, and then I went to a sort of like a residential facility out in the community. No staff were there.
Right.
This is through North Point Trust, and then from there, my symptoms pretty much went away. But then I started drinking.
I see.
And it wasn't as huge as marijuana, but the alcohol did have a large effect.
In the same way that marijuana did, or different?
Different. It was not. I think it had more impact on my cognition than on my positive symptoms, but still the positive symptoms. And then I met I had my psychiatrist. She was lovely, Alison Brown. So this was early intervention services.
Okay.
And then I had a nurse called Ursula Singer who supported me to study psychology. I still keep in touch with Ursula even now. She done such an amazing job with me. Yeah, it was more personal. She wanted me to do well, and so after residential, I went into my own accommodation, my own unit through North Point Trust, and that's when I started studying psychology. So my dad thought it'd be good to keep studying. So I went and enrolled at North Tech and done a mental health and addiction certificate. And then my nurse said, I thought about psychiatry, but then my nurse was like, nah, do psychology, much better. You'll like it far more than psychiatry, than studying medicine. And so that's when I enrolled at Massey University into psychology. I think that was in 2012, I think.
Right. And how did you find it?
Going into university?
Well, yes, going back to the university environment, this time you're doing psychology rather than engineering.
I had schizophrenia at the time, but I was more organised. So
what does that look like, having schizophrenia and being more organised?
I think that's just normal development. At 18, coming from the Hokianga, I think it was a bit. There was a too steep learning curve for me.
Wowzers. Yeah. And so, you started to connect with the content?
Well, I got my books early. I started doing work early. I prepared for essays earlier. And at the first, I just done one paper to see how it goes.
Sure.
And I got an A+ or an A or something. And I was like shocked. I thought, maybe I can do university. Maybe I have a chance to do well. And then I moved down to Albany. So I done that first paper extramurally. Then I moved down to Albany into the accommodation. And first few years I was a strong student, and then I started getting a little bit into the university life in the third year. But I remember I got an award from Massey University, Outstanding Achievers Award. So I think I got all A's in my first 4 or 6 papers or so, and then I was shocked by that too.
Were you using that course not only as a form of study but also healing as well? Lots of people that do counselling, social work, psychology do a kind of dual path.
The whole process of discovery through psychology is to learn about myself, learn about my mum, learn about people in the community, and just people in general with schizophrenia. So it's every time I read something on schizophrenia, it's just a source of knowledge to understand the self and to understand other people with schizophrenia. Yes. It was a good thing I didn't get into the decline psych. So I had my honours, and
what were you focusing on as part of your honours?
Fitness to stand trial court outcomes. So not quite on schizophrenia. Yes. I done a 6-week internship for Mason Clinic.
Okay.
So there I was collecting data, getting a little bit of experience of what clinicians do. I was watching therapy and assessments.
And so for those of us who don't know what the Mason Clinic is, just give a little brief.
So its proper name is the Regional Forensic Psychiatric Service. So they people with severe mental health and who are not fit to stand trial or have been found insane reside at Mason Clinic.
Yes.
And so it was completely secure. All the doors were locked. Nobody could leave, and it's just locked door after locked door after locked door.
Yes.
They had an intellectual disability facility there, and they had mental health as well. And then you had people that were sort of transitioning to the community at the same time.
How did you find that? Because I've worked in acute mental health, although at Te Aho Mai, that's the acute mental health service at Littlemore. So to me, initially you have all these kind of perceptions of what you're going to face, but after that I found it fun working there for like 2.5 years. How did you find your 6 weeks?
It was a short 6 weeks. I had some clinical experience. A lot of them were quite severe. I had more experience with the intellectual disability, so we were working on a violence risk assessment, and so we're collecting data on violence risk, and so a lot of them were sexual offenders, and I found had an intellectual disability, and I experienced the clinicians there. Their job was not to identify morally what they've done is right or wrong. Their job was to treat the client. So I found that an interesting perspective, that these people, sexual offences are the most horrified, the worst kind of offences you can have, and yet you have to treat them as a clinician. You have to try to improve their life, improve their functioning, improve their symptoms. So I found that was a shock to me, and I didn't really feel comfortable in that environment, to be honest. I wasn't there long enough, but some of the clinicians have been there for years. So
I know that's an area that I still struggle with, having worked with almost 4,000 men that have been affected by sexual abuse. But if I'm asked to work with offenders, it's a different energy that's required and perspective. So even now, I've worked with maybe a handful of people that have been convicted of rape and or sexual offending. It is a different kind of energy that's needed, and you really need to summon your clinical expertise at the forefront of your practice, and try as best as you can to kind of remove any other thoughts or perceptions that you have about people. So I absolutely know what you're talking about.
Big part of my role there was just to collect data.
Right.
So I looked at fitness to stand trial reports, and I looked at all the reports, and then I fed it into sort of a data collection sheet, put on the computer, and started creating a data set, and that's what I based my honours research on.
Right.
Was fitness, that data set that we built. And it didn't get many citations. I think it's got 2 citations in like 8 years.
Well, what did it find? What did your research, your fledgling research find?
So we looked at trying to correctly predict whether someone is unfit to stand trial or fit to stand trial. So we have the court outcome.
Yep.
And then we have the fitness to stand trial legal criteria. So you got the legislative criteria, which is they must have the ability to plead. They need to be able to instruct counsel. And the third one, I think, is understanding court events and outcomes. I think, I'm not 100% sure.
Right.
And then there's the presser criteria, which is a more broad set of criteria. And we tried to identify that if you also assess clients with the presser criteria, whether you get a more likely to find correctly classified people as fit or unfit. So to correctly identify whether they're fit or unfit. And we found the presser criteria. So that identifies that if you do a fitness to stand trial court assessment, you should use the legislative criteria and the presser criteria at the same time.
And you were saying it's only had like a handful of sites.
Yeah, 2, one by us.
Interesting. How would you? Well, given, and we'll jump ahead and jump forward, jump back. But given now that you've got doctor behind you, is there anything that you'd go back and look at maybe writing papers on to
fitness to stand trial?
Yeah, because that sounds like a really interesting area.
I haven't.
You don't look overly.
My view, not so much fitness to stand trial anymore. My main priority is to do research on schizophrenia.
Right.
Yeah.
So talk to me then. Given that, talk to me about how you did your PhD and all that other stuff associated with it.
I failed the clinical psychology interview.
Right.
like many people in that application process. And then I had to decide what to do with my life. So I decided to get a job. So I worked for Ngāti Hini Health Trust.
Oh, yeah. Up
As
in
Marae, doing drug and alcohol rehabilitation with the Tāne. And
How did you find that?
It was an interesting work environment. I'd done a lot of night shifts. So it was quite challenging for me, especially being on sedating medication. So that was a really challenge to get to be able to get enough sleep during the day. And working with clients, I found that some of them there were for court orders; they had to be there, and then some of them were there on their own free will. And it was quite a restrictive setting, so even phone calls and so forth were restricted.
Yes.
So I found that really hard for the Tāne. But some of them really wanted to be there. Some of them were there because Oranga Tamariki required them to be there and get a proof that they're no longer using substances. It was challenging. And then I decided to leave, and I went to Northern DHB as doing public health statistics as a public health statistician.
Right.
So I started looking at, we done this indicators report. So we looked at 1,000 indicators that are reported online, over 1,000, and we collated them so we could use it. So if anybody wanted to ask about any aspect of public health or health then they could refer to that document and find out who provides that information. It's kind of like a data dictionary. And then COVID happened.
COVID, yes, I am familiar with it.
And so we formed the Public Health Intelligence team, and then we started identifying, there was only 27 cases when I was at Max, when I was working there. Right. But when it came to vaccinations, that's when we started getting huge amounts of data in. We had to provide daily briefs, weekly briefs, yearly briefs, pardon me. And that's when I thought, I don't have to use psychology. I can also do work in statistics. And so I had a great manager, Warren Moitara, and he allowed me to do the Master of Applied Statistics, and the Northern DHB paid for it as well at the end. So I'd done a Master's while I was there, and then I stayed there for 3 years, started a company, worked for them through my company, and then I decided, I can't start moulding into the seats at the Northern DHB. I better pursue my dream and study psychology. And so I decided to look around and see who would supervise a PhD. And so this is where the declin psych, I'm glad I wasn't doing a declin psych, because a PhD is far more suited for me than a clinical degree. And I searched around supervisors. Some didn't want to work with each other, and some...
Did they tell you this?
Yep.
Really?
Yeah. And some, I won't name names.
Don't name names. That's just unbelievable, though, that they would tell you this.
They weren't, Some supervisors were hard to work with, and some didn't have any availabilities.
Sure.
And then I found, I checked Mass University, I checked Auckland University, and I checked AUT. And then I got in contact with Dr. Margaret Samham and Professor Richard Seagate. And they were really open to doing a PhD on schizophrenia, because they had previous research on schizophrenia. Yes. And in my master's, I had done a Bayesian network on fMRI data, so functional imaging data.
Right.
And we looked at the relationship between brain regions through time.
Wow. What did you find?
We found quite a few things. So we found that people with schizophrenia, they have more functional connections, but different functional connections in healthy controls.
Yes.
And we looked, because we done a network, and we done many networks actually on different aspects of the data, and then we sort of averaged them together. And then we could cut to see how different complexities of the network. So you could have a hugely complex network, or you can have a very simplistic network. So the simplistic network wasn't too different between healthy controls and schizophrenia. The complex network probably had a lot of false positive edges, relationships that were just found by chance. Depending on where you cut it, in terms of complexity, is really important. So a lot of researchers say that people with schizophrenia have further path links between brain regions. So that means to get from brain region A to B, it's going to take 4 or 5 steps, so longer path links.
Yes.
We found that it depends on how complex the network is, and it's not always true. Still trying to publish that one.
No, that sounds exciting. Is that irrespective of ethnicity?
This one was all online data. Online data.
Even
we didn't check.
Right.
Yeah, it was an American data set.
I see.
Yeah.
Do you think ethnicity matters? Because often our Māori and Pacific feature highly within diagnosis rates of schizophrenia in New Zealand.
Yeah.
What do you think? From
you
your
would have
expertise?
you would have to control for it. So I think we controlled for age, gender. We didn't control for ethnicity. But we should have. Yeah. And depending on the context and how diverse the sample is as well.
Yes.
This is a North American sample, so.
No. So what does that applications there mean within a New Zealand context? Do you think?
Yep. It was. It's sort of representing the average person at the same time. So, but if you apply it to people in New Zealand, it would just sort of say the similar information. But if you've done the sample in New Zealand, it would be much different.
In what way?
Well, they might have more functional connections or less functional connections. The connections that are present might be different. It might be different, by ethnicity as well for Māori. Sometimes if you look at Māori, non-Māori, you get like notions of like the warrior gene or something. And terrible stereotypes like that to say Māori are inherently violent. So there's dangers there as well.
I was thinking, how do you actually navigate all those tricky bits within your profession?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is it relatively straightforward to kind of navigate that stuff, or you always have to be kind of thinking?
No, you need two hats. Do
you think that
you could do the statistics on it and report it as the data shows?
Yes,
but it may not. It doesn't respect many kaupapa Māori principles that you need to be wary of, even like Māori data sovereignty.
I was going to ask about that. So, do you feel like your experiences growing up have enabled you to navigate between two different worlds?
Yep, absolutely. Yep. I feel completely comfortable in a Māori world. Yeah.
Yes, there's a good story that I'm going to tell you later on.
It's still learned. It's not native for me.
Yes,
it's not something I was embedded in as a child, but I can be quite comfortable when it comes to doing mihi or so forth. I would prefer that someone that's Māori done that process rather than me. Yes. But I'm happy to join on the whole.
Do you know what's interesting? When I had first met you, I had talked to James, who worked at the postgrad office. So
James Hearsign.
Yeah, yep. James. And I said to James, who is this guy? Because he has a really interesting wairoa. I sense Māori elements, but I don't at the same time. I'm confused. Who is he? So for context, senior Māori academic, my job is to support all our Māori students. But when I saw you, I was confused. I was like, I get Māori elements and I don't. And he said, I don't know, but why don't you introduce yourself? And that's how I've ended up getting to know you, because my senses at the time were that you had, that there was something about you that was inherently Māori elements, and then there was a side I wasn't certain on. It was fascinating to analyse it.
Yep.
So that's how we ended up actually meeting, last year? Year before? I can't remember. If you were going to describe this to, say, a 14-year-old about what you did, how would you explain this? Because there'll be some people like myself that get it, and then I'm also thinking there will be listeners that'll be like, what the hokianga is this? But it sounds valuable, and who knows who might listen to this. So how would you explain it to like a 14-year-old in terms of what you did?
In terms of the people with schizophrenia, the way they come into, let's say, the clinic or come into the family, or how they respond to other people, thinking processes are most important for them. And we also found that how quickly you can process information.
Yes.
So you got raw processing speed, so how quickly you can react. And then you got
like something's hot. So then you let it go. Hopefully. And
then you have things that may take a bit more time, which like thinking about events or ideas and so forth. And we found that how quickly people can process that information is the most important thinking ability that there is.
So do you mean there's something like thinking about, what do you want for lunch? Or is it something more detailed like, are we going to go to a concert next month? Talking about that kind of thinking.
You could be talking about sort of concepts as well. So we could be thinking about or events like a war, or so they take a little bit more time to deliberate, or quickly processing things, like if someone asks you what you want for lunch, then you can respond quickly. Oh, I want a sandwich for lunch, or sausage roll, or hangi, or whatever. And so it's how quickly you can process information was the most important, more than memory.
Interesting.
Yeah, more than there's another one, spatial working memory, being able to identify how things are in your environment, and more important than verbal memory as well. So how well you can verbalize information. So just talking about events, word knowledge, and so forth.
And then ultimately, what did your results show? When did you realize I'm going to get this PhD in pass? Once you'd written up your results or findings.
I always had pretty good feedback from my supervisors, and thanks to you, Alex, I was wanting to submit as soon as possible, and I remember we worked together, and you were saying, just tell them you're going to submit. No, just tell them you're going to submit early. And so I reached out to submit early. And at first they said, no, you have to submit with at least 3 years into the PhD, 3 completed years. And at that time, I thought, I should be able to submit earlier if I have completed everything.
Yes.
But then they asked that that all supervisors need to agree that I can submit earlier.
Right.
And one supervisor didn't.
Right.
And so for that reason, I didn't want to push it too much.
Sure.
The thesis wasn't quite completed, but I could have completed it and finished early. So the thesis wasn't quite completed. And then I let a few months pass, which took time away. I don't know where the time went, actually.
It just goes
And so I ended up submitting 3 years, 2 months.
Interesting.
Yep.
Tell me, which was more frustrating, the other supervisor not signing off or me suggesting that you enter this kind of kaupapa Marae data?
That was 100%. So we included a big section on different theoretical overviews. I remember you read it too. So
yes, I did.
That whole section on kaupapa Māori approaches was really important. It should be included in most theses.
Whether you're
doing Bayesian networks on a study in the USA or something, it doesn't matter.
This is when I genuinely thought that all your experiences have kind of enabled you to be, doing the work that you are, because the way that you wrote it was so elegant, and it made sense that if you were to pick this up as an Indigenous person or non-Indigenous, you should be able to get your placement. What was the feedback, if any, from your supervisors about incorporating an Indigenous worldview?
Yeah, it was Margaret Samham really pushed me to also include different perspectives. Right. So you got lived experience, you got kaupapa Māori approaches, you got the medical model, you got the symptom network approach, you got some more environmental stress psychology approaches, or the biological, psychological, and social model of psychology. So we put that in there. A couple of statistical methods, including Bayesian networks, and another one, latent variable models as well.
So then, given that, then you got your PhD all done.
Yep.
And what does that now mean for you? In what way has a PhD
I remember when I finished the oral exam.
Yes.
I felt a sense of just being completely lost. like almost like having slight amnesia for what happened in the examination, because I was so focused. Yes. And I may have just dissociated a bit. And I didn't know. And when I left there, I was struggling to remember all the bits and pieces of the oral exam.
Were you grilled? My one was relatively straightforward. They were just, let's have a conversation. What do you think? What was yours like?
Well, it was short. It was only 40 minutes.
Oh, wowzers. Mine was 3 hours.
All right. Yeah. So they asked me a few questions, and some of them were very tricky, like come across as kind of innocent.
Right.
But if I answered the wrong answer, then it could throw my thesis in doubt. And so I'm surprised I answered a certain way, because...
Do you remember a specific question that kind of threw you?
Yeah, there was one question that... so, processing speed. Would you... The assessments you use for processing speed are quite old. If you were to do your PhD again, would you use those same measures? And now, because I based my outcomes of my thesis on processing speed being the most important, I had to say yes. And so I said yes. And then I didn't know the answer. So I walked through a little bit on processing speed, and then I said the answer came to me that they use, there's a battery of tests. So like 5 or 10 tests of cognition or thinking processes in schizophrenia, and they're used in all the pharmaceutical trials. Yes, it's old. It goes back to 2001, around the time of the study, but everyone uses them. So I use that information to sort of defend my thesis, saying it's a standard battery of tests. It is to be used in all pharmaceutical trials. Using something else wouldn't be appropriate, even though it's old. So that was a very tricky question, and I found there was questions about lived experience, because I put lived experience in my thesis. So I put that in my introduction, my personal experience of schizophrenia, and I think that helped, surprisingly. Yeah.
Is your father still alive?
Yep.
What did he think about you now doing your PhD?
So proud of me. Yeah, so proud of me.
Yeah.
From the time we thought I'll never return to university to the time I got my PhD, he was very proud.
What messages would you share with other people living with schizophrenia who are wanting to kind of get ahead and are just facing multiple barriers and challenges? Do you have any keywords on your own reflection and journey?
Yep. Reach out to someone that can support you well through your whole journey. Maybe someone that there's always people, there's always mentors in life. Find someone that can support you with whatever you want to do. It may be to find a stable job. It may be to find to help your whānau more. It may be to go into education. Whatever your goals are, find someone in your whānau, in your community, in the health service. Find someone that will support you and help guide you through the whole process.
Do you know what's really interesting, because I 100% agree with you, is that in the same way that you were making connections in your PhD within that quantitative space, I can think about this, when we look at qualitative research, it talks about similar things. Making connections or social connections is a really powerful determinant for people getting through. So I like this pattern around just connection where possible. Final thoughts, my friend?
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you. This was very interesting for me.
Yeah.
And I always find it fascinating to see what is it about a specific topic that someone's decided to focus on for PhD.
Yep.
As mine was sexual violence recovery. Yours decided to go down this avenue of understanding the nature of schizophrenia. I guess actually I had one other quick question. In what way do you think AI would help either hinder or increase what you want to know moving forward?
Personally?
Yeah, in the space.
I didn't use any. I used AI in my PhD to search for articles, but I never used it for writing.
Yeah.
All the writing was 100% my own.
And so what do you think about AI being used, though, within your realm?
For others?
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm divided.
I am too. So.
Sometimes
it's contextual.
If let's say you're doing a university topic and you're teaching a paper at university. If you let your students use AI, do you want their ability to be represented, or do you want their use of other tools to be represented? And it's a very challenging thing. I'm still with the anti-calculator sentiment. I think that people should be grades should be given based on people's ability.
Yes.
So I think there's ways around it. Maybe reducing essays and making more tests and so forth. But then at the same time, I'm thinking I'm behind in terms of.
I don't know. I'm thinking the same too. I think if AI helps you to find legitimate sources to help you, not made up ones, like legitimate ones, then it's your job then to analyze that and come up with your own, analysis, not an AI analysis.
But when it comes to writing your essay for you...
Yes, I'm not for.
Yeah, that's the same with me.
And so when I'm reading, could be hundreds of assignments a year, I do get a sense of which ones are AI and which ones are definitely written by students. And I've spoken about this before. Our students that are into, say that they haven't used any AI, and then I get them to read their assignment, and then it says on the end of their
is there anything else I can help you with?
Yeah, ChatGPT says, is there anything I can do to help you with?
Would you like me to clarify this further?
And then I push them towards it, and they're like, how much trouble am I? And I'm like, let's ask ChatGPT.
It would be overused, and it would be naive to think students aren't using ChatGPT.
Yes, absolutely. This is why I guess when I finished my PhD, I took a kind of sense of, yay, I did it before AI, so no one could ever, question it, I guess.
It would be interesting to see, is there human writing that is better than AI. Because
Interesting.
I think sometimes you get asked to write about a particular topic for or against, like an argument, a debate.
Yes.
Normally, for is the preferred option.
Yes.
But I think ChatGPT would be, or like AI might be a little bit too conservative.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you get an assignment that's written very strongly worded about something,
Yes.
it's probably not generated by AI, because AI would probably take the middle ground.
Yes. The kind of neutral ground.
Yeah.
All I know is that it came up once when I was doing a course at MIT, and it said that my wording had strongly associated with ChatGPT, and I had written it.
Right.
And I remember the lecturer said at the time, well, this is quite academic in nature. And yes, it reflects the person who has a PhD. so they couldn't find the direct sources. I was like, that's because it's not a ChatGPT. So you're right. And actually, that's something I might look into, doing this analysis around it. Actually, is there better ways of looking at like human versus AI ways of writing and speech patterns. Anyway, that's a whole different podcast. Khan, I deeply appreciate you being
Thank
here.
you.
Take care.
Yep.
Kia ora.
Thanks, Alice. Kia ora.